Hi out there, it's me again, just here to follow up on the last live I did a few days ago about the International Health Regulation Amendments and a certain situation that evolved with Kirsten Murfitt and co. Since then, Kirsten's made another post 2 days ago, which has gained quite some traction and I imagine will gain quite a bit more because of the content of it. So I thought I'd have a wee chat about it before it does. In this post, Kirsten writes, "There's been confusion about whether New Zealand has reserved or rejected the amendments. The official statement was that we had reserved, but these documents show that we have indeed rejected the amendments." That's what she writes. She then displays two documents sent to the Director General of the WHO and signed by Andrew Forsyth of the New Zealand Ministry of Health. She points out where he's written the phrase, "We reject the amendments," in a couple of different ways, but definitely using the word reject. The post was met with, understandably, a joyous reception. Lots of applause. Hallelujah, we're safe from the nasty IHR amendments. This is great news, in the comments below. NZDSOS then went on to repost Kirsten's post just yesterday, saying only these words, no other context, just simply New Zealand rejects the IHR amendments, with the muscle arm and starry eye emojis, and everyone's going, yay, what a victory, in the comments below. But the documents that Kirsten has shown in her post and that NZDSOS then reposted are not showing a rejection of the IHR amendments that we're concerned with. Andrew Forsyth is referring to completely different amendments in those documents, and the posting of them in Kirsten Murfitt and NZDSOS's total lack of context is very misleading, as you can see by the result. Andrew Forsyth's letter is only talking about 59 and 61, Articles 59 and 61 of the current IHRs. Those articles were amended, along with three others, in a separate amendment procedure. They were adopted by the World Health Assembly in the 75th session in May 2022 under what's called a silence procedure. They weren't even open for vote. The successful amendment of those two articles basically just shortened the length of rejection reservation window down instead of what would have previously been a few months longer. It's a totally different thing. Also, neither Kirsten or NZDSOS showed the part of that same document that stated, and I quote, "Following New Zealand's general election on October 14th, this step has been taken to give the incoming government the opportunity to consider the amendments. This may not be the government's final decision." She didn't include that bit. Anyway, I left a comment under Kirsten's post on X asking her to please clarify this situation with people, as it was clear by the response that people think the documents are pertaining to the 307 amendments. But no response, as usual, no clarification to the public. She's just let this misunderstanding go. Let it run free. Frolic wildly in the meadow. I'm sure she'll be able to claim that, I never said it was the amendments, not those amendments, it's not my fault if people misunderstood. But it's obvious that that's what people would take from her post because she didn't provide any context and she's now not clearing up the obvious misconception. Even after NZDSOS reposted it with her name tagged, clearly indicating that New Zealand had rejected the IHR amendments, she still hasn't felt the need to clarify. I talked to Matt Shelton just the other day about this because he's been telling people in no uncertain terms that we've rejected the amendments. So I know that he's not ignorant of the truth, but Here it is again, reposted by NZDSOS. It's just so misleading. Why are they doing this? I know I'm not supposed to say that Kirsten's shilling for New Zealand First, but it sure looks like Kirsten's shilling for New Zealand First. And when I say New Zealand First, I mean the government. They're all in this together in that beehive. And the beehive's pretty much just an extension now of the southern wing, basically, of the UN, WEF, EU, WHO, etc. And I know that there are a lot of people who say, Sam, you really shouldn't say such things. We must be nice. And we must just keep giving people the benefit of the doubt. But I mean, seriously, unless you haven't even got two brain cells that are still holding hands with each other, you should, with the amount of information that we have to base our conclusions on, be able to see a few things about New Zealand First by now. Winston serves the WHO. He got us into COVAX, the WHO's cash cow, and he won't stand for the people about anything to do with COVID or Big Pharma, because Winston's up to his neck in Big Pharma. His partner, Jan Trotman, was the New Zealand head of Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Johnson & Johnson, until conveniently right before the COVID hoax. So he's pretty much married to Big Pharma. Anyway, I watched a Zoom of Kirsten's that was just held a couple of days ago. I think yesterday I watched that, and she was invited on to it to share her expertise of the IHR amendments, and in it she talked very much as if the pandemic was real and that we've just navigated a very real global pandemic. They talked on the Zoom about how the WHO is not all bad. That was their words. In fact, they're quite good for certain things, they said, like the sharing of international health information, and that we should encourage that, they said. Really? The WHO keeps insisting that the amount of patient information that they receive needs to increase. They have made it clear that they want unhindered digital access to all patient information around the world, and the UN supports them in that, and so does the EU. And the International Health Regulation Amendments demand that that information shall not be withheld from them by any nation, or they'll be in breach of the pandemic treaty. That sharing of information is a control mechanism. It has nothing to do with healthcare. But, however, they did add on that Zoom that the WHO is overstepping a little. That was the words they used with the IHR amendments. So this terrorist organisation, led by a genocidal criminal, wanted criminal, that is gearing up to declare an eternal state of worldwide pandemic, is just, I don't know, overstepping a little by seeking to use their amended, mutated, more like, international health regulations to enforce the entire world to be injected with a myriad of clinically untrialled, untested, poisonous concoctions. It's just a bit of an overstep, people. Nothing to get too worked up about. Remain calm and dignified. Maintain your composure. It's very important, you know. Then they went on to talk about how Winston's public consultation process now means that New Zealanders, this is what they said on Kirsten's Zoom. It's on her X page if you want to see it for yourself, watch it for yourself, and on Facebook, I've heard. I wouldn't know. She blocked me there. And it's not like I would have a voyeur profile to look at pages I've been blocked from. I mean, that would be wrong. So according to Kirsten, because of Winston's public consultation process, New Zealanders now have the wonderful opportunity to add to the IHR amendments. To put some lipstick on that pig. Don't worry about getting rid of them or exiting the WHO. No. We can just add to the amendments, just fluff them up a bit. These people are medical rapists and mass murderers. The last thing any of us should be doing is playing any part whatsoever in contracting with them in any way and giving them any authority over our bodies. These are our bodies, for goodness sake. What is with people thinking that they need to submit their bodies and their children's bodies to the government, to the WHO, to do what they will with them? Acting like we don't have an intrinsic right to bodily autonomy. How crazy is this? We know that we're barely going to even get a glimpse of the actual amendments before the Assembly meets in May to vote on them, a breach of Article 55 of the current IHRs. So the worst part of these amendments are clearly being withheld. So why on earth would we want to contract ourselves to that in any way? And please, too, tell me, Kirsten, this public consultation process, how can we have informed consultation about the amendments when we don't even get to know what's in the amendments? How do you discuss something that no one even knows about, please? It's just dumb. You're supporting it and telling us to. The government wants us to engage and to contract with the IHR amendments. When there's something we don't even want, don't need, have no disclosure, and not even the sufficient information to be able to consult on. It is insane. It's all very reminiscent, actually, of the lack of informed consent with the jab due to withheld information. Where now they're not responsible because you voluntarily took it, because they cunningly coerced people into contracting with their own demise. I do believe that that's a part of this public consultation process with the amendments. If they change the wording of subsection 136 paragraph 19b at the behest of the people, then the people now have some ownership of that thing. They authored a part of it. And they will take that as this thing is now an agreement between us. But anyway, says Kirsten, let's all just get involved in helping to establish the amendments by contributing to them, negotiating, that's like negotiating with terrorists to contract with them into your own murder. We don't contract with rapists and criminals. We expose their crimes, and then we lock the bastards up, if they're lucky enough to still be alive at that point. Make no mistake about it. If you make a submission to the government in regards to the IHRs, then you are submitting to the government in regards to the IHRs. It's right there in the word. I will not consent. I most certainly won't be submitting to the government in any way, shape or form over the IHR amendments. I wouldn't touch those things with a barge pole. In fact, I would take that barge pole and shove it right up. I'd do something quite different with it. Then, further into Kirstens Zoom, they went on to talk about how we're all really looking forward to using the coming opportunity to talk about what we got right and what we got wrong in the pandemic. I just feel I may need to clarify there was no pandemic. I thought we'd already figured that out, but Kirsten appears to be making quite a step backwards here. And this is all government language. That's the wording they use for the Royal Commission whitewashes, like the mosque one. an opportunity to talk about what we got right and what we got not so right, and how we can all try a little bit harder next time. Always, of course, staying well away from the crimes of the government and the truth, full stop. Just playing make-believe together, because that's what civilised grown-ups do. That's what the National Interest Test and the public consultation and the COVID inquiry will be all about. And if you're a good citizen, you'll just play nicely. Kirsten actually said in her Zoom that we all must be middle of the road in our response to the coming amendments. That's the actual words she used. We must be middle of the road. And we must just calmly remind the government of due process, such as parliamentary debate, etc., she said. And she said, if anyone is concerned about the IHR amendments, that they can make submissions, and when they do, she said, go ahead and cut and paste from her open letters on her pages. That's what she told people to do, because we wouldn't want people to stray from the flock narrative in our questions or comments. Feel free to bleat and bah at the government, but don't be thinking for yourself and asking your own powerful, informed questions. Don't do that. Just cut and paste from her letters, okay? Excellent. Because God forbid we start getting a grip on the truth and speaking about it. This consultation process, this misinformation that's being spread, is designed to calm you and keep you from demanding that we exit the WHO. You know what? We do still have time to exit the WHO for that legal process, well before any amendments adopted in May would even come into effect. They don't want people talking about that, no. Kirsten's a lawyer. Why isn't she talking about the legal process necessary to get out of the WHO, to exit, instead of talking about contracting with them via submissions? So once again, if I've got anything wrong, Kirsten, please feel free to talk to me, put me right. I will be polite and respectful. I noticed there was quite a few mentions under your posts of this personal attack that you've suffered this week, obviously referring to me. But still, I've noticed not one answer to any of my questions, just continuing to delete, ignore. So, yeah, I can only ask if others out there will go and put on some pressure, ask Kirsten to stop saying that we've rejected the IHRs, and to clarify the truth of the situation, please. And also message NZDSOS and ask them to take their post down, the one saying that we've rejected the IHR amendments. It is dangerously misleading. We need to call for an exit, the WHO, the UN, and the WEF. And even if our government refuses to exit, we do not and will not consent. Ever. End of story. Thanks for listening.